It's Dominion time, and we're just about ready for what is often the second biggest show of the year. It's taking place in its usual spot of Osaka and in the big building, Osaka-jo Hall. There's a pretty packed lineup. It's an interesting one, and it almost promises a few surprises and twists and turns. We are going to break down the Dominion card match by match and look at how this show could spin New Japan off in a new or interesting twist on the direction going into G1 2025. There's a lot to cover, so we're going to get right to it. With Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. And frankly, this was a quiet week. We did not have any events whatsoever. It was a week off. It was actually a quiet week in Japanese wrestling for the stuff that I watch anyway. It was unusual in that respect. But we do have a little bit of news, and we have a very big preview of a very important card coming up. So, Jeremy, how you feel about getting back in the saddle and watching some New Japan Pro Wrestling for the first time in almost 2 weeks on Sunday?
Well, Steven, I got to tell you, the Dominion timing was really great for me because I might have broken my toe this morning, and I might be sitting on the couch for a little while.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm excited for Dominion, but I do feel like it's been a very muted build with the lack of shows and the best of Super Juniors kind of taking steam away. Just feels like kind of it's there and there's not much to get excited for because they built up all the card 2 months ago. Like it just feels like a month ago we knew everything on the card and then just went radio silent. And so the anticipation for the show is like, yeah, it's there. And once the show happens, we're probably going to talk about what a great show it was. It's just the ability to get excited and hyped for this one has been hindered by the schedule of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, and it's odd because even Stardom is running fewer events than they usually do. There was a long stretch with no Stardom shows, even Marigold. So it wasn't just a Bushiroad thing. Even Marigold has had a little fewer events going right now. It seems like early June is this time, maybe just with maybe just the time of year they just decided to take it a little bit slow there. But yeah, no road to Dominion whatsoever. We're going right into it, and that's not completely unusual. They've done that before, but it does feel like the heavyweights have just been out of sight, out of mind for so long, including some of them not even being in the country of Japan for a couple of months. So I understand what you mean. When I looked at this card, though, as I was preparing the preview, I was kind of curious about a few things on it. Now, we have an X, and we're going to get into that. We'll see who the new member of House of Torture is. There's a couple of title matches there that I don't necessarily expect changes, but they could be important in other ways. Right. We'll talk about that. So it's an intriguing card up and down. There's interesting stuff on it, and usually Osaka's a pretty good crowd as well. So I think by the end of this, we might be very glad we checked it out.
Yeah. Steven, I got a little bit of an internet connectivity issue on my side, and I'm going to try and fix it real quick. Go ahead and take the lead and talk about, I guess, the LIJ, the new LIJ with Naito and Bushi, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So while Jeremy's doing that, I want to say hello to Colin and Brad. You guys are in the chat, and I'm glad to see you guys are here with us today. Now, we did get a bit of an announcement from Tetsuya Naito and Bushi, but mostly through Naito. We talked about how they don't own the copyright for Los Ingobernables de Japón, and that they would have to come up with something new for when they left New Japan whenever they come back. Now, that's probably a ways away unless something changes. Bushi has his restaurant to run. Naito needs to get work done on his eye, his elbow, probably about 6 other things, his knees. So we're not imminent as far as the return goes, but they did mention that they had a new logo and a new name. They have gone with something that was a secondary catchphrase with LIJ. They are now Los Tranquilos That is the name of the new team, I guess, or the new faction. That's a two-man faction right now, Tetsuya Naito and Bushi, Los Tranquilos. So seems like a natural one, just something
nice
that they can do. It's a decent pivot. Yeah, exactly. So this happens when you're dealing with copyright issues, and they found something that'll pretty much slide right in.
I just wish it was another word than tranquilo, because I don't sound great saying tranquilo over and over. I sound about as white and Caucasian as you possibly can be, and in a region of the world where there are people that can sense that inflection and mock me for it.
Fair enough.
I wish I could do better.
You know what I am apparently physically incapable of doing is trilling my R's. You know how there are times when
Rayano and stuff like that?
Yeah, stuff like that. He does that with Nosotros, Los Ingobernables, and he trills the R in Gobernables and things. I can't do it. I live in Texas. I've been trying to do it. I took Spanish in high school. I cannot flip and do it. And it just doesn't work. I don't know. I just don't have that chromosome or whatever that allows you to trill your R's. I can't make my tongue do it. And it's so frustrating because there are certain words you're supposed to do it, especially in a Tex-Mex dialect, and I'm just useless.
And they just laugh at you because they're like, "Oh, you can't say it, can you, gringo?"
No, I can't.
I get called gringo a couple of times, and I always laugh. I'm just like, yeah.
I know enough Spanish that I can kind of get through, but I don't need to. Like most of the Hispanics here speak English, so I don't. It's one of those things.
Brad, I have a front-facing job with people that will speak Spanish to me, and I don't know enough, other than like enough to get by, and it works. But I wish I could do better. But me and foreign languages do not mix well at all.
Fair enough. Brad is asking a question here that LIJ adjacent, of course. He said, anything newsworthy come from the Tsuji Hiromu Shingo presser today? And it was less of a press conference than a talk show. It wasn't like a formal press conference in the way that we have seen the Tanahashi do them and other people. It was a little bit different than that. Not a lot of news coming out of it. I think that they do not want to tip their hands before Dominion or wherever else the big change is going to come. They talked a little bit about what it was like wrestling in Mexico, because Tsuji and Hiromu did that a lot. I remember the one moment, though, they said, it was like who translations when it comes to that stuff, and they're a little spotty, but who impresses you or who are you interested in? And Daiki Nagai and Murashima were both brought up by Tsuji and Shingo. Shingo mentioned Nagai. I think Tsuji was impressed by Murashima, and then so it seemed like the question was, what young lion would you be interested? Like, who's your first round draft pick, so to speak? And Hiromu said Yoshinobu Kanemaru.
Yeah, I saw that part.
And then they also continued to tease things about X. Yeah, that was part of it, because they said, well, what factions are you interested in? Tsuji said he respected that. He says what House of Torture does sucks, but he respects that they are committed to it. And that was something that he said. And then
Hiromu, a lot of people conflated that to, Yota Tsuji might join House of Torture.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. And Hiromu, of course, seems to believe that he is in a faction or destined to be in one with Kanemaru. So he just said that when he said to what factions impressed him, he said, not Hantai. He said there was an incident. So he said, I will not be joining Hantai. And then, of course, the Kanemaru speculation running rampant, along with the fact that Hiromu Takahashi is not booked on the Dominion card. And that has led to all kinds of thoughts that Hiromu is going to at least temporarily try to join up with Kanemaru in the dark side because he thinks they belong together as friends. We'll have to see.
Okay.
There are multiple theories about who X could be, of course, but Hiromu is...
Shingo's not interested in joining with anybody.
Right. That's basically what he said, which goes to what, and I hope that leads to the thing that we have been advocating here for a long time, is that the man needs his own faction. He doesn't need to join anybody else's. He needs to his own. And
this is a time where he could do it at this show if he wanted to, but it could be after the show too.
Yeah. But Brad, you asked that it's not the most newsworthy thing. Not to say it wasn't entertaining, but there weren't giant revelations about it. They had shirts on that said unaffiliated or independent on there, and people kind of made a deal about that. But that's not a new faction, just because they were wearing shirts that said independent on it or something like that. And Fernando Zayas is here. Hello, Fernando. Glad you're with us.
It does kind of feel like LIJ is done. Like they're clearing out the inventory. They're not on the there's no Titantron doesn't have it. They're not mentioning it. Like these are three guys who are friends with each other that were in LIJ, but I'm not really sure LIJ is much of a thing anymore.
Yeah, what was the thing they said too in there where they said, like, how would you describe your relationship? And Tsuji said more like it, professional.
They're my work friends.
Yeah, and then Hiromu just said something like out of outer space or whatever it is, like very Hiromu-ish. And I think Shingo said something like respectful and all that. You don't get the idea that these guys are buddies the way Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu are buddies, or the way Naito and Bushi certainly seem to be close friends. So
their brothership is not quite that tight.
Yeah, thrown together and all that. So
they might be just three guys right now.
It's closer than anything else. I don't see them staying in the same faction. I think they're going to go their separate ways. And there might be two of them. Two of them might go and do something, but I don't think all three of them will. I think they're headed off in different directions. Certainly, Tsuji and Shingo seem like they are headed off, and maybe Hiromu will join one of them. But maybe not.
I think Would you be really shocked if in a year from now we're talking about some epic Yota versus Shingo feud that we've been seeing?
Oh, not at all. Not even a little bit. I think this could break down eventually. And,
there's always been this sense between the two of like, who's the number two? Like it was Naito at number one, and then, Naito was symbolically number one, but who was you know what I mean? Who was the front guy?
I really have always felt personally that Shingo was the number two guy and that Tsuji was the future, perhaps. But in the present, Naito was clear number one. That he was the front guy, like you said.
But
and I felt like that is something that they could exploit in a Tsuji Shingo rivalry for sure.
How many shows did we have where Yota Tsuji was the last guy coming out because he had the global title? Yeah. It was. It would be Hiromu, and then it'd be Shingo, and then it'd be Naito, and then it would be Yota Tsuji. It's like that's meat on the bone for the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that they could definitely use, saying that, I was ready to be the number one guy or the number, and you kept trying to hold me back or something like. You can always do stuff like that. And Shingo and Tsuji, they should do it eventually, and probably sooner rather than later, within the next year, while the LIJ stuff's still fresh. It should happen.
We're going to be talking about LIJ as in from the ashes of from now on. You know what I mean? It's just, there's no LIJ anymore. And it ended with a whimper, we have whatever the new acronym is that Bushi and Naito have.
But that's not a New Japan thing. That
I know, but if people are going to adopt it, you're going to have to correct people and just be like, LIJ, no, LIJ isn't a thing anymore. It's Los Ingobernables de Tranquilo, LIT or whatever.
Yeah, Los Tranquilos de Japón, I think is what it is.
Naito's lit now, totally lit.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it's just one of those this is the new paradigm. You have to mentally separate that LIJ is done. And it's they're leaning more into War Dogs than Bullet Club. Chaos is gone. This is what we were talking about happening, is that these factions were gonna overturn, and we were gonna get a new roster with symbolically new people at the front of all of it. And we're in the middle of it right now. This is the most definitive aspect of it. Just five guys and Chaos folding into Hontai. Now you have half the roster separated into one giant babyface group over here, and now you have LIJ that's slowly dissolved. And where are these guys going to go? And people are joining House of Torture. Is it going to be somebody from this big old group of Hontai that feels disillusioned? This is legitimately probably the most interesting thing that's going on in New Japan Pro Wrestling to me, is this whole factional divide. And I kind of can't believe it came out of this like press conference conversation that these three had. But the reality is, the way that they were talking isn't that LIJ is breaking up, it's that it already has.
Oh yeah, no, they've been unaffiliated officially since the beginning. I mean, Titan was listed as a CMLL guy, and Best of Super Juniors Hiromu the whole time. It's been months since there was LIJ, and it really ended at the Hiroshima show. The Hiroshima show, when Naito cried in the ring. That was really the spiritual end of LIJ. I think that was kind of the last time. And by the way, just 4 guys, just 5 guys, just that group still technically exists, but only technically. It still technically a group, although Chaos no more.
It's a fringe group under the Hontai label.
Yeah. And Colin says that Shingo's, he doesn't know if Shingo's YouTube channel is new, but he started one. He's uploaded a video of him training with Sendai girls and things. So Shingo's going off on a little bit of social media. I saw him a couple of times on Instagram. It would just pop up at night, and I would see that he's on live. And so I'd tap it to see what he's doing. And it would just be him walking from his hotel to the arena and just kind of having a chat as he did. And he would get to the building, and with his pass, and they would wave him in, and he would say goodnight, and that was it. But so he's done a little bit of social media promotion in that sense. I guess this is just a new version of it. Maybe Taichi showed him how to use YouTube.
So, you and I are going to do a rewatchables, right? In a couple of weeks for the Omega Okada match.
Yeah, I guess as we set up for the one coming up in Texas, we're going to do something to remind us of what has been.
Did you happen to watch the video package that they did last night in anticipation for the new match?
No.
I will tell you, Steven, the video package is something that I think you would tremendously like. I think the angle that they did in the show, not really up your alley. They went with Don Callis as the
Kenny biting the water balloon of blood there, and
I think the capsule might have been like one bridge too far to the destination. It's quite possible, but I think that the video package is something that you will really, really like. That part of it is something that they can't make new stuff out of old footage.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, look, we had the matches were at Wrestle Kingdom, the 47 minute all-time classic with Okada and Kenny. That's the one we're going to be looking at, I believe. Then they did the 1 hour draw, which was almost as good. And then they did the more than 1 hour, 2 out of 3 falls match, which was pretty blow away. And that was Kenny finally getting the victory there. So all 3 of those are matches that defined that era in New Japan, helped to define that era. So we're going to be taking a look at the Wrestle Kingdom match, the very first one, that 47-minute one. At the time, was considered one of the best matches that we'd seen, one of the best New Japan matches of all time, and would still be on a pretty short list of those, I would say.
They're pretty much all timers.
Yeah.
They
had tremendous chemistry together for sure. I don't know I have no idea what we're going to get in Texas. I don't know.
Those matches are so good and so legendary that an entirely different wrestling promotion making way more money than New Japan is deciding to run that one back specifically because those guys are so good and everyone would like to see it one more time.
Yeah, and we'll see if we can get some motivation out of Okada in this one, who's been on paycheck cashing duty for quite a while.
I will tell you, he did the elbow from the top rope, and it looked like a good elbow from the top rope.
It's a challenging spot for the two of them because they have to kind of deliver here, don't they? I mean, if this match is just okay, everyone's going to be talking about how, these guys are done. They're burnt.
Are these guys washed?
Are these washed up?
I have been thinking about this match for a little bit. And
I don't think they're washed up, by the way.
No.
I don't think they're motivated. I don't think they're particularly motivated, but I don't
like
think
they're not inspired that they have to be as magical as the other ones. They're getting paid a lot of money, and their boss really wants them to have like that magical, inspiring match. And if like they're passionate on behalf of their boss, we're gonna have an all-timer.
Yeah.
If they're passionate on behalf of like, you know what, like if they get closer to it, like let's show them all how it's done, and they decide to just pull out all the stops and make this, 33% of a 4-hour show, I'm fine with that. It's like if these two want to just take over the last fourth of the show or whatever and just be like an hour of a 4-hour pay-per-view.
No, that's okay. We don't need this to go on out. We don't need no. We don't need this to go an hour.
They are
no
so indulgent with it. They did an Iron Man match with MJF and Bryan Danielson that went past an hour. Like they did another 10 minutes on top of an Iron Man.
Those shows are too long as they are. We don't need an hour in the middle of it. No, thank you.
You never know. But
no, I know.
That's the kind of like mentality that I feel like when you say the pressure is on them and what like Tony might end up having them booked to do and what they're willing to do is like we might get a 45-minute match. We might get like a match that doesn't end up like, no, this one has to have a winner kind of thing.
Well, they don't pace their shows at all. So I mean they might do 45 minutes just because they feel like it. There doesn't seem to be any. Huh?
If this close the show.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you watch Dynamite. I don't. I mean,
but that's the question.
It could be the alternative is Moxley and Page, right? Yeah. I mean, I know which match will be good, or Page and Moxley does not feel like a main event. Page doesn't feel like a main eventer to me. It should have been Ospreay. This whole thing of dredging up Adam Page again to me doesn't do it for me. So but I'm not a regular AEW viewer. Kind of partly because they give me main events like Moxley versus Page. So that of the matches, that's the one I want to watch is Kenny and Okada just to see if they can pull it out again. Can they get back into fifth gear if they feel like doing so? And I guess that would be my question. I'm curious. I'm curious to see how many people are there in the crowd, and I'm curious to see what kind of match they deliver. But between that and Page versus Moxley, I mean, good grief. But I'd rather watch that. But Jeremy Zog is giving his opinion on it as well. So
he's feisty today.
But and you lost your little bit of audio too. On top of that, lost your microphone. But no, I don't think it's going to be the main event. I think it'll be the match that people probably talk about a lot afterwards, but I don't think it's going to be last. My feeling is they'll probably put Moxley and Page on last because AEW seems to be under a delusion that Adam Page is a main event star. And I've never seen anyone get hurt so much by a bad world title reign as Adam Page was. He was poorly booked. It was poorly executed. Then he spent, I don't know how long doing comedy skits with mid-carders, and it's just if it were going to happen where this guy's a main event draw, it would have happened by now. It hasn't.
I mean, the interesting thing to me is the parallels to the trying to get it right, his original title run quest. Like he had to step away because of the pregnancy with his wife, and it kind of messed up that run, and he stepped away, and then he came back in, and just kind of the timing was off, the vibe was off, the contenders were off. And then the Punk thing happened, and we all know about that. So there's a part of me that looks at this as kind of like Tony Khan wanted to get it right this time, because if you look at it, there's really no difference to cosmetically that Omega was a shit heel champ that had a bunch that he was turning away like main event contenders left and right that weren't doing it, and then Page ended up being the guy. And now you have Moxley who's done the same thing, and now Page has ended up being the guy, except his run isn't interrupted by something in the fact. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking this feels like what he's doing, but he has done it at the cost of Will Ospreay's ascension.
Yeah, makes no sense. He
made a mistake the first time with ending Page's run, and now he's making a mistake this time with not pulling the trigger on Ospreay's run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ospreay's a better wrestler by miles, and he's right now. I think he's far more over than Page is. So they're going to have.
He feels like the guy.
Yeah. Instead, they beat him and brought up a guy they're dredging up from 6 years ago. It's just time to move on. Fernando's saying 4 hours of AEW every once in a while is better than 3 hours of SmackDown every single week. A lot of things are better than 3 hours of SmackDown every week.
I'm out on the 3 hours of SmackDown. I'm just flat out. I can't do it.
And the audience seemed to have been out on 4 hours of AEW because, my God, the ratings on that were atrocious. Especially the last 2 hours of that, an absolute atrocity. It's like but I mean, hey, they had to do what they had to do because of the scheduling and all that. So,
the NBA Finals rule all.
Oh well, yeah, that's always going to take a precedent there.
And
Hangman is Mr. AEW. That's not a good thing, Fernando. It's not a good thing.
I'm not a huge fan of Hangman, and this is where Steven and I differ.
Not a good thing.
I still love Stephen Conway, even though he can be wrong about so many things.
Oh yeah, because the Adam Page's career arc. That's what you want, boy. That's a good one.
Living and dying by the Hangman.
Hundreds and hundreds of paid attendance every single week for Hangman Page.
He definitely got big time by Punk, but I hold.
But Punk was the star.
Punk
of that.
is the
Come
guy.
on.
I get it.
Yeah. Punk's clearly a better star.
Okay, so what I'm saying here is that when Hangman Page lost the title,
why are we talking about this?
I don't know. I just want to get somebody some clarity before we get on to Dominion, because we got into AEW because of the Omega Okada thing, and then here we go. So real quick,
I don't know how we got.
It was the CM Punk versus Hangman Page match that happened in Vegas. What should have happened is that Hangman Page wins that match. CM Punk ends up winning a tournament or whatever where he could win the title and run it back in Chicago, where they were in that September. Instead, Punk won, then got injured, and then we had the aborted summer of Punk, and just a bad time.
Well, Fernando's saying Kenny versus Okada should main event. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll probably, again, if they decide to go into fifth gear and have their match, it will clearly be the best thing on the show. But, I don't anticipate them putting it on last.
I think it's second from the top, probably.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me, too. Now,
all right, any other news and notes before we get into the preview?
Well, I wanted to mention this. Shuri has defended her title, the IWGP women's title. That was she got a victory there. She defeated Alex Windsor, Will Ospreay's partner, who is also
bound Alex Windsor.
And so that is the first defense for Shuri of the IWGP women's title. But her next one is a big one. It is part of a Stardom pay-per-view on the 21st. She will be facing Suri at Conversion Tokyo. Ooh. Once again, every company in the world booking Suri. And Iroha too. Iroha from Marvelous is getting booked all over the place. But Suri against Shuri should be a banger of a match for the IWGP women's title. That's the first time it's going to be under threat. I think that no one really thought that Alex Windsor was going to win that time. Nothing against Alex, but this was strictly to get Shuri a title match under her title match defense under her belt.
Is Suri still a freelancer?
Yes. Yeah. And working for everyone under the sun because she's amazing. So she's living her best life out there working for whoever the hell she wants.
Do you think that they belt her?
They might, but I think that Stardom might be worth it to Stardom to pony up enough for Suri to put Shuri over. And because I think that they would want to keep that title in-house and just have it under contract because, man, that gets so sticky when it's a non-contracted wrestler holding one of your belts. And I would recommend that, and Shuri is someone who could beat Suri, and it wouldn't look ridiculous. It wouldn't even be an upset. It would just be two great wrestlers and having a great night.
Shuri won.
Yeah. That'll be really good. And so yeah, it should be.
What is Suri's aspiration right now? She's just enjoying freelancing.
Yeah, I think she's happy that she can do whatever she wants and work with and for everybody. So, I mean, she can wrestle in Stardom. She can do a huge match at Marigold. She can do everything. And right now, there are very few people in that kind of a situation, and she's not short of bookings. So, yeah, I think she's content to do what she wants at the moment.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So there we go. All right. So let's go over to Dominion and let's break down this show because it will be Sunday, June 15th. We are just about ready for Dominion. It's going to be, as I mentioned, in Osaka-jo Hall. That's the big building there in full capacity. That building can hold 16,000. But considering entranceways and configurations and all that, it doesn't have to hold 16K. Last year, they got listed attendance of just over 7,000, about 7,200 in. And so if they beat that, we'll consider it a big success. What do you think after the year that they had there? And more evidence of the Goto revolution, I suppose. But something to keep in mind when you see Osaka-jo Hall there for Dominion this year. It can hold up to 16,000. They're not going to get that. But if they beat 7,200, I think that's a strong day for them.
Absolutely.
It will open with kind of a pre-show match there, the Young Lion match. It will be Katsuya Murashima and Shoma Kato against Daiki Nagai and Masatori Yasuda. Now, this is coming up on the first anniversary of Nagai and Yasuda. Believe it or not, it's only been about a year there. Murashima and Kato were there a little bit before that. I think whoever gets the pin in this match is going to tell us a lot about where they are in the pecking order, and especially who gets beat too. It kind of tells you who's in fourth place here a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it feels a little bit like Murashima isn't terribly far from Excursion if they end up doing one for him. They don't always anymore. But the others I feel like have some time to go yet. I certainly Yasuda, who's been hurt, Kato's been hurt, Nagai only a year in his career. Murashima would be the only one that would be even close, I would think, to going on an Excursion. But so it seems like if there's anything other than Murashima pinning one of the other guys, then it's going to give us a little bit of a signal of what they're thinking of.
Yeah, they're if one of the younger guys that got a pin and it kind of elevated up to the elder statesman, and all of a sudden there's like one trailing all the other three, that would also be kind of an interesting wrinkle in the dynamic here, because I feel like Nagai is still treated as the one that's behind, but, might exceed all of them in the long run.
Well, I think they know that they have a future star in Nagai, but they're famously cautious with young lions and bringing them along and all that. So, And poor Yasuda just keeps getting hurt, and so does Shoma for that matter. But everybody's back. This is the first time we've seen all four of them back in a little while, anyway, on one card and in one match. So I'm happy to see it. So there's a lot of talk in the chat here about Suri, who is a terrific promo and has been talking a lot of trash, and that's being mentioned over there by Venkin and Colin and all that. But Suri casually saying that Sherry could have had a match if she was back from the UK, if she could come watch and think she's a good promo. She's definitely
that's my sun god.
All right, so that's on the pre-show, and then once the main card opens, they are opening with something that feels like it should be rather important. So we're going to have an 8-person tag, War Dogs against House of Torture, Taiji Ishimori, Chase Owens, Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney on one side. On the other, we have Sanada, Ren Narita, Yujiro Takahashi, and X. So. Sorry. On one hand, I want to temper expectations because X's haven't always been particularly thrilling lately. One of them was Taguchi. One of them was literal. It was Robbie X. Should we temper our expectations? Could it be Jake Lee, who Sonata?
Could it be Robbie X again?
Could it be Hiromu? I don't know. He's been talking about joining up with Kanemaru. So what are your thoughts? Where do you see X going? We're going to find out right off the top of the show.
Okay, so looking at the guys, you got a bunch of maybe Jake Lee, but I don't think so. I'm not kidding about Robbie X. I think that is actually a real possibility that guy is just a troll that'll go to the whatever group he wants to go to. Were there any other people? I'm not entirely inspired by this. I'm just kind of like, all right, show me who it is, and then I'm gonna value how like big a deal this is. You know what I mean? Like whoever it ends up being is gonna tell me just how much I should care about this.
Yeah, I still feel like it'll have some consequence anyway. They already have Dick Togo and they already have Yujiro. So they don't need to bring someone in to eat pins. So I feel like it'll be somebody of consequence. That's just my thought on that, because you could bring in somebody to do the jobs, but that kind of feels like what Chase Owens is here for, to get beat by whoever this person is.
Sure.
And
but if it's like Chase Owens getting beat, then I'm already okay. He beat Chase Owens, and now he's in House of Torture.
Well, the night's not over yet for House of Torture, though, is
it? That's true, but it also, like, you're leaning towards the fact that, you know, Evil probably could predictably win this if the new, like, X factor in this House of Torture is the shift in the whole deal. And it could be, but it still feels like it's Evil's faction, Ren Narita's number 2. Like, who's this person going to be? And is it going to be just a guy to fill out matches and kind of like make the faction a little bit better operationally? I'd be down with that, but it's also not like, oh my God, so joined House of Torture. This changes everything.
If I'm putting odds on this Vegas-wise, I think the shortest odds would be on Lee. Second shortest odds on Hiromu, just because he's not booked and he's been talking about it. And even if he doesn't end up joining for long, you know, if he gets disillusioned or Kanemaru kind of turns on him, that type of thing. Could be something goofy Hiromu type of thing. But Jake Lee, the reason I have it is this. He could be second to Evil without Evil really having to perceive him as a threat. He was teaming up with Sanada. You could say he's the smart bastard. He sees that he feels like this is the way to go. And his style suits a House of Torture presentation more than a War Dog one.
You know who it should be?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. The other part is he could form a tag team with Sanada, and Sanada needs that right now. Sanada needs someone to team with to take a little bit of pressure off of him. And I'm not saying it would be the greatest tag team in the history of the world, but what's the best use for Sanada right now? He doesn't appear to be physically able to have the matches he used to have, and maybe a tag team slot with either Great-O-Khan and Newman retaining or Taichi and Ishii winning for the heavyweight tag team titles might be a use for those guys down the road. So that's just me thinking out ahead on that. So short odds, Jake Lee, maybe Hiromu if they want to do something silly. And then if they want to surprise me with somebody that I hadn't even thought of, who do you think it should be? You had a moment of inspiration a moment ago.
First off, Brad threw out Ace Austin, who is now no longer with TNA. And I think that's a really good suggestion.
Not bad.
He has the right work rate and competency for that. Here's the guy that hit me while I was talking. And it hit me earlier, and I couldn't remember who I was thinking about. Former NXT talent Eddie Thorpe, a.k.a. Carl Fredericks.
Another guy who's free. Carl Fredericks has been, I don't know if he was released or they just didn't renew him or whatever, but he was part of the round of cuts from NXT, no longer there, and absolutely could. What have we seen is that the people that worked with the Kaiser Soze of New Japan, Katsuyori Shibata, tend to go bad before they go good again. So that could absolutely be.
I could see him making a beeline straight for Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors.
It would be Clark, really, because those two were at that dojo together.
Clark, he would go after, but he'd go after Drilla first for replacing him.
There you go. Well, I mean, it's a ready-made thing if they want to do that. And Ace Austin, not a bad pick either. So there are some people.
Benkin has the suggestion of Jack Perry, who is neither seen nor heard from in AEW, so I guess go to his Instagram and see if he's posting anything about his latest metal work and various hobbies of setting himself on fire on Instagram. If somebody wants to check that and let me know if he's hanging out or gone radio silent, that could be a giveaway too. I don't use Instagram, but I hear about these things and I am amused.
We'll have to see. So, I mean, so it could go a lot of different ways. I guess the one thing for this is that we're not sure. And there are some interesting aspects of it. And War Hero 99 is asked, so Bullet Club is gone from TNA. Yeah, pretty much. I don't think there's a tie-in anymore with it, is there?
The last vestiges of the faction seem to have disappeared. There's no Bullet Club in MLW. Is there any Bullet Club in MLP? Is there any Bullet Club anywhere other than New Japan right now?
I suppose if you, well, geez, Bullet Club. Well, I mean, there's, I guess a Robbie X and Rev Pro would still be considered a War Dog.
Sure.
Yeah. Maria Graciela Sayas, I'm glad you're here. Glad to see you. Yeah, so that would be one. Rev Pro, there's a bit of a presence anyway. And then, of course, there's all the little underlying hints and nods and winks that they've done with Finn Balor and AJ Styles, though that'll never be official. But they never fully leave, do they? There's always those little looks between the two of them sometimes, like, yeah, we were in a group together. We were in a group. Yeah.
Do you what about the I think War Hero's talking about the stuff in New Zealand, the Fale Dojo. They're still using
the Rogue Army. Technically the Fale group is part of that.
Yep. We don't really think about Fale much, even though we gotta.
Yeah, and he's been mostly focused on his school down there in the Tamashi.
The Tamashi, right.
Yeah. And his school in New Zealand is still carrying on there apparently. So, yeah, the Good Brothers though, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they seem to have. They seem to have turned on the War Dogs anyway. But again, that show never really counted. So that was Rocky V anyway.
When they did that Resurgence show, they were the like they did the Bullet Club thing, but they weren't explicitly Bullet Club. You know, like
what show? That didn't happen. I thought that got canceled.
the PTSD erasure. You played too much Tetris to remember Resurgence.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't think it happened. I think it was all a rumor.
It sounds like another House of Torture match.
All right, so we'll see what it goes. But I do expect that Chase Owens will eat the pin from X on this one. That's just my little half-ass prediction here of this.
That's a very safe prediction, Steven.
All right, next match after this one is intriguing one. Now, if X wasn't intriguing, I think this one is for a couple of reasons. We have El Phantasmo and Shota Umino teaming up to face Zack Sabre Jr. and Ryohei Oiwa. So this will be a good match. The wrestling on this one should be outstanding. The question you have to ask about this match, Jeremy, is why is this here? What are they trying to tell us with this match? That has to be setting up something for the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps Oiwa for a TV title shot. Sure. That could absolutely be it, where Oiwa gets a win on Phantasmo. They've had a couple of clashes, a couple of stare downs, a couple of shoving matches about that TV title. And that could be very well where it goes. Something between Zach and Shota. Something, they've got a little bit of leftover resentment from Wrestle Kingdom. And God knows that Umino, that can't sit well with him, what all happened there. Perhaps a little bit of both, where there's going to be a pair off here, where Umino is going to take exception to something with Zach, and there could be extracurriculars. Maybe Oiwa beats ELP and sets up that TV title match or something like that. But it just feels like you don't do this match with these four guys unless it's going to mean something later. I don't see this as just being a match so that you can see these four wrestlers. I think this is the beginning of a story.
Yeah, I'm with you that one of these guys feels like TMDK is going to get the win here against one of the other two guys. Who and why has yet to be seen, but all I know is that we have one really big show before the G1, and you still have to get some matches set up for that. So if you did the match for the TV title out of this, it might be a little too. There might not be enough time for a major angle with Shota at this point before the G1. Like whatever's going to happen with him is just kind of like Shota is what he is going into the tournament, rather than like he's going to be the topic of conversation coming out of it. So I feel like I think we're leaning towards an ELP finding himself a title challenger for the next show.
Venkin mentions, could they have Shota turn on ELP? Well, he certainly could. But that all just depends on whether or not they want to go heel with Umino. And I'm a little bit skeptical of that. I'll believe it when I see it.
Doesn't feel right. Like,
yeah, I think I mentioned it before. I think they should, because I think that he needs to, similar to Roman Reigns, needs to be a heel before he could be a real hero, before the crowd accepts him as a hero. But perhaps the timing is a little awkward on that. Yeah, I'd agree. But
I think
there could be something coming out of this show. Yeah, that could be. But this could also be a show where some new alliances take shape. So who knows?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards this building to an explosion of some type for Shota Umino, but not the explosion itself.
Okay. War Hero is also asking, is the best of the Super Junior winner facing the champion?
We'll get to that.
Not at Dominion, because as it turns out, Desperado is going to be facing Jun Kasai later this month for the title, and Kosei Fujita, who won Super Juniors, is going to challenge after that. He said, you go ahead and handle your business with Kasai. We'll challenge later. That's the kayfabe storyline version. Probably the real life version is they feel like Desperado and Fujita can main event their own show, and so they're going to have it do so. And so that's not on this card. We will not be seeing this. In last year, the best of the Super Junior finals was the main event, went last, the final match on the show. It was Desperado and Ishimori. This year, going a different direction, and we're not seeing that title match on this card.
Steven, if they do not belt Fujita after doing this, I'm going to be so frustrated, because there's no reason not to do this match at Dominion if the plan is for Fujita to lose. Because you can still do the Jun Kasai match anyways. But if you do the Jun Kasai match because you really want to run back the Death Bay Invitational from 2023, where they had that brilliant death match. I don't love death matches, but that one was brilliant, and they're running it back with the Death Pain Invitational this time. And this will be main eventing the show. I fully expect Desperado to win, but then lose to Fujita afterwards. Because if Fujita was meant to lose, there's no reason why you don't do this match on a big show. You know what I mean? It just there's logistics to it that I'm glad all of this is happening, but it would be really, really optically devastating for Fujita to not win after all this, because he's been made to move aside for somebody else after winning this tournament, and then he loses anyways.
I see your point, and it all depends on the circumstances and when we see that match. And so I'm curious to see when they do it, but for now, we'll have to wait.
Probably one of those. They'll probably do a junior heavy show right before the New Japan Soul Big Show.
Yeah, could very well be
like a week later.
All right, and after this one, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Yuya Uemura. This feels to me, Jeremy, like a really good chance for Tanahashi to put Uemura over. And he tends to beat guys on this farewell tour that are either too far down in the pecking order to beat someone like Tanahashi, or guys that are leaving the company, like Jeff Cobb, for instance. And they want to get their last match in before the guy goes. Uemura is neither of those. He could very well be the next babyface ace of the company. That could happen. He seems to be picking up a lot of steam. This is an excellent time to pass the torch, and Tanahashi's got more matches. He's going to end up at Wrestle Kingdom, but I don't think that Yuya Uemura should be losing to 2025 Hiroshi Tanahashi right now. So feels to me like this ought to be a big win for Uemura, handshakes and hugs afterwards for sure.
I think there's a general consensus that would agree with you, Steven. I just hope that there's one person, and that is Hiroshi Tanahashi, that also agrees that he should be losing.
He has been putting over guys that are ticket sellers.
What's best for business?
Yeah, he does seem to be doing what's best for business. It would be best for business for Uemura to get the big victory here, and and the endorsement for that matter.
Yeah, I am with you.
Okay, simple enough. Let's see if they do it. After that, we have a title match. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship on the line. Master Wato and Yo, the champions, against Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Sho. It's House of Torture, and it's the junior heavyweight title. So who the hell knows? Those titles bounce around all over the place. House of Torture can always cheat to win. Should be a good match. They are playing up that Wato is going into it with damage done to his knees at the attacks at the end of Best of the Super Juniors. There were a couple of matches there where both with the wrench and the full whiskey bottle, they worked over poor Master Wato's knee. So that could be leading to something, or a hero's journey for Wato where he overcomes it. Either way, it just should be a good match on the show, but those belts are hot potatoes. 50-50 as to who wins this one.
I think a title change is probably a 50-50 toss-up here. Like, you can go and do whatever you want with this because, like we mentioned earlier, the G1 is coming, so the junior heavyweight division kind of takes a back seat after, being hot potatoed into the lead role for the last 6 weeks or so, just being the topic of conversation. I think Yo has done a lot to stand out from, even 6 months ago. Even though his gimmick isn't much for me, it's very clear that he is connecting with the audience. And, if you got Wato there, they got the injury angle there. They're also playing up that this could be a House of Torture evening. It's like House of Torture is just coming away with all sorts of advantages. Maybe there's 2 X's. Maybe there's more than one, and then another one comes out to seal the victory for them in this match. It's like it could be that kind of night where there's so many baby faces that they just start loading up on heels on the House of Torture side.
Yeah. Fernando mentions he's not a fan of hot potato booking, and I agree with you, Fernando, for the most part. The junior tag titles, though, we're just going on history there, and there are not a lot of long title reigns and plenty of one and dones. It's one belt that there's plenty of win at one match, lose at the next. If you look back at the history of the IWGP junior tag titles, they tend to hot potato this particular belt.
What is it? They're on the 105th title reign of the junior heavyweight tag title division.
Yeah, it's a crazy number.
I don't even remember how long it's been, but that's like 3 or 4 title changes a year. Kind of thing.
And it's always been that way. That's not even a Gedo Jado era thing. That goes all the way back.
That just goes back to work rate and, getting work rate matches out.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. So we'll see how it goes. There's a lot. House of Torture has a very busy night. House of Torture just has a very busy night ahead of them. So, and Vankin says he wants to know the record for defenses of this belt. That's a good question. Well, we might have to check, do some research on that, get back to you on it. But that's the first title match of the night, but not the last.
Yeah. So this title was created in 1988, 1996, actually. No, where are we going here?
I think it was already there in the 90s, wasn't it?
I got the junior heavyweight championship. That's what happened there. I was looking for the
heck. That was created in 81.
There we go. Here we go. The current.
Well, no, that was the WWF junior heavyweight
1998
title that Tiger Mask had. Never mind.
It was created in 8/8/1998, and we are on 78 title defenses or title holders on that. On the junior heavyweight, it might be 100 or so on the heavyweight tag.
I wonder if there are 100 some changes, but 70 some teams or something like that.
I do not.
Anyway, I don't know.
But we'll get to that in a second. I'll look that up when we get to the IWGP tag match. There we go.
So, we have the IWGP heavyweight tag team titles on the line right after this one. This is Taichi and Tomohiro Ishii challenging the champion team of Great Okan and Callum Newman. Now, speaking of hot potatoes, okay,
that was the one that had over 100.
That belt's been around longer, though.
Let's see. It has been around since 1985.
There you go. So Ishii and Taichi, I think that the crowd's going to be heavily behind Ishii and Taichi here. I think they will be the big sentimental favorites. And Ishii, by the way, a fan of the Osaka baseball team there, the Hanshin Tigers. So he's got a little bit of a personal connection with the Osaka fans. By the way, Master Wato, also from Osaka, not to be dismissed necessarily when you think about that match earlier. And I would love to see Ishii and Taichi take this. On the other side, a little stability for the tag team titles wouldn't hurt because they've been through the whole Hiromu Naito thing into Newman and Cobb, but then Cobb leaving faster than they thought, and then the vacancy, and then Cobb and Okan winning it. So these titles they've had a year, quite frankly. They have had a year. They haven't had a real home. So on one side, a little stability wouldn't hurt, but we can do stability later. I would love to see Ishii and Taichi win this.
I am in the camp of I would love the homerism of Taichi and Taishi, the team of Taishi. That would make me tremendously happy. I'm a little worried, though, that they wouldn't do it because Ishii spending a lot of time going back and forth to the States, kind of doing work for other promotions, not necessarily sure he's going to be in the G1 this year. There are a couple of factors to that. When you know that more than likely Great Khan and Callum Newman are going to be in the G1, and the tag champions are typically in the G1, that is the only reason that you could express some doubt that Taichi and Ishii don't end up with the opportunity here. But at the same time, both of those guys weren't in it, and this could be their no, we have our passes to get into the G1 or the fact that we have the belts this year. But I'm just not sure Ishii is healthy enough to be in a G1.
Well, Venk and I have an answer to your question. And then he also wanted to mention that he likes Great Khan, and all these title flip-flops should be better for retaining, meaning that with all the instability, he feels like a retention is more likely. Yeah, that could very well be. And I'm just rooting for two of my personal favorites there. Now, to answer your question, the team that has held that has had the most title defenses, they managed to get to V7. Jeremy, that is the record. The most title defenses, 7, and it is done by Apollo 55 in 2011. That is Prince Devitt and Ryusuke Taguchi.
Well, that is
the most success. Now, 2 other teams got to 6. That was Geto and Jado back in 2001, and Jushin Thunder Liger and Koji Kanemoto. So Koji Kanemoto and Jushin Thunder Liger in 2003, they got to 6. And then you see after that 5, Geto and Jado and Apollo 55 again, before you get to the Young Bucks at also with 5. But 7, the all-time record for the junior tag team titles. That's a thunderous reign for the junior titles, 7 defenses.
Would not have guessed that, but hey, Taguchi, all-timer.
Apollo 55 was a hell of a team. That was the team that Devitt was in before he turned heel and formed Bullet Club. So there you go.
All right, what do we got next?
Next, we have another title match. We've got belts plenty here. We have the Never Openweight Championship on the line. Konosuke Takeshita and Boltin Oleg. Now, this is the rubber match. They're 1-1. Boltin defeated him at the G1 last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Takeshita does this. This could be a huge step forward for Boltin if it's a great match, and it has every chance of being one. Boltin, like I said, mentioned won with the Kamikaze in the G1, so there's built-in jeopardy here for the champion. And Takeshita is a fantastic wrestler, but this is one of those matches that Oleg can take a big step forward, I feel, without winning. Mm-hmm. If this match is just really, really good. And their G1 match was pretty damn good. I feel like this will be a winning day for Oleg, even if he doesn't walk out with the Never Openweight title. I do not think they should take it off of Takeshita at all right now. And I don't think Boltin would be the guy I would have take it from him. So I think this is just a match where Boltin has a chance to shine against an outstanding worker, and Takeshita can go into the G1 with that Never Openweight title around his waist. That's what I do. What I do.
I think you're right. What changes if Boltin wins?
I think the only thing that it changes is it gives Takeshita an unnecessary loss, and it kind of puts Boltin in a bit over his head with that. Not to say that he's not going to be a champion. I think he will be. But I don't think Boltin is quite there yet. And I suppose it would give him more credibility, but does he have a credibility problem? I don't really see the point of switching it here at this point. I looked over reasons for doing so, and I couldn't really come up with one that wasn't a big stretch in credulity.
Okay. I got one for you, and it's kind of big, maybe not. It kind of depends.
Okay.
If Takeshita were to lose this match, he would be unencumbered going into the G1.
That's, you know what, that's a fair point.
And that would lead a lot of people to believe that he would have a legitimate shot of winning the whole thing, as opposed to him having the never openweight title, which would, while give him a belief that he would win, it would reduce people's probability for him because of the way New Japan books. And not to say that he wouldn't have the never title and going for the IWGP title, but then it gets kind of messy. This is the opportunity with a guy that, you know, has beaten him. You can do a rubber match. You're saving another opponent for Takeshita down the line. That is the reason why you could do it. I'm not sure that is the reason why they should do it. Yeah, and that is a reason. You're right. And what's the plan for Takeshita? War Hero is asking. He'll probably be in the G1 because Brad mentioned something here. There's a display with Yo's new ring coat, and they had an event poster for the G1. Takeshita was on it, so it looks like he's returning. Great. You know, I mentioned that we seem to be on the National Guard plan with Takeshita, where he's here for 1 weekend a month, a couple of weeks in the summer. You know, that whole plan, or the Army Reserves or whatever it is, that the weekend warriors that do that stuff. And where you go 1 weekend a month in a couple of weeks. Oh yeah, my dad did. Yeah. So with that in mind, Takeshita is still under dual contract. And if you're New Japan, I feel like maybe with Takeshita, if you feel confident you're going to get him, and I feel confident he wants to be a New Japan guy. He just didn't want to do the whole switch from DDT directly to him for political reasons and things. Maybe you wait until that moment. And this never openweight title is a great way to feature him without making it a world title thing. So he could absolutely go into the G1 with the never openweight title. I would have him go all the way into the postseason, so to speak. You know, if you do semifinals and finals, he should absolutely be part of that. Maybe even be a finalist, but not win the G1, but still be the never champion. Now you would have his occasional defenses lined up a little bit, or at least one, right, coming out of the G1, and just wait it out. Wait until he's your guy before you really send him after the IWGP title with vigor. And this never openweight title gives you an excuse to put him on big shows in big matches against really good wrestlers. It's kind of a good setup right now for a guy that's in a dual contract situation, especially because you have the global title to be a number 2 belt. And if the never openweight title isn't on all these big shows because there's a scheduling conflict with AEW, you can work around it. So he's in a really great spot, and he should absolutely be pushed. He should absolutely be featured. I don't think he needs to win the G1 this year. Wait until he's your dude, is my point. Yeah, I think that's all makes a lot of sense. I think it's interesting that AEW, whenever they have Takeshita, there's no never openweight title belt on him. You know, like it's not even mentioned. It's not a thing. He is with the Callis family. He is a guy in the Callis family. He's not the front man. He might be the second or third. You know, like the positioning of Takeshita in New Japan is much more prioritized and much more of this guy is a star to build around rather than a piece of the puzzle at another promotion. Maybe I am putting on a tinfoil hat here and getting into conspiracy theories, but what you just said, that he's not the number 1 guy in the Callis family, and that maybe people have felt like they aren't using him to his full potential in AEW necessarily. To me, as a New Japan fan, that's kind of a good sign, because Tony Khan tends not to push people that he doesn't feel are going to be there long-term. And what I mean by that is you've got him. If you're not going to have him forever, now is the time you can really push him and get the most out of him. Instead, he tends to pull people like that back. Like he knew Mariah May was going to leave after the Tony Storm feud, and instead of building Mariah May up to put someone else over, he just kind of took her off TV and didn't mention her for the last couple of months.
That's just his feeling, is if you're not staying, I'm not going to feature you.
Kyle Fletcher. Sorry.
Kyle Fletcher. So if Takeshita is in this position and he's not pushing the living hell out of Takeshita, might mean because he feels like he's probably going to go to New Japan when this is over with. That's just me crossing my fingers and hoping for a guy that I really think is the perfect New Japan frontman for, Takeshita, as far as work rate, presentation, charisma. I just feel like he has it all. He should be ours.
He is part of what could potentially be a Rushmore of talent for the next 10 years with him and Yota Tsuji. The other two will rise to the top eventually, but it is the beginning of a next generation thing. And it's not always that everyone comes from the same place, but they end up in the place where they're supposed to be. And every time I think about it, just like Takeshita should be in New Japan.
Oh, I do too. And the whole thing for Oleg, just have a great match, dude. You're in there with a great worker. Show everybody what you got.
I'm not even worried about this match at all.
Have the best match of your career. You go into G1 with all kinds of momentum as far as that goes. It's a good situation for everybody.
Yeah, this is light him if you got him after the match. It might be a hard hitting affair. You're just like, ooh.
I'm excited about this one. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. I am too.
All right, what do you got next? Well, I'm super excited for this one.
Next we have the dog collar match, Evil versus David Finlay. And this feels like something that Evil could win, especially with a new member bouncing around the arena, the X that we mentioned earlier, and a 2-0 record for David Finlay in head-to-head matchups. Might be time to even that up. If that happens, if Evil ends up winning this thing, it could be the start of all the, Finlay's leaving rumors. Those will fire back up again for sure. It's also very possible that it's an angle alert, So on the other side, if Finlay is staying and New Japan isn't worried about him leaving, this could simply be the final victory for Finlay and moving on from House of Torture. And again, with a new House of Torture member, that feels a little odd. It would kind of land that with a thud. You have this new guy, and then the leader loses in the end. That could be weird or awkward. Could be part of the story. Point is that I feel like this is an angle alert, or it's just Finlay getting his final victory and going into the G1 as one of the favorites. He's off his big win. He's done with House of Torture. Now I want this G1 and I'm going in. I'm going to win it. This is all that I'm thinking about now. I have ended all the distractions. So 50-50 on this one as well. You could absolutely have Evil come through here, and it could be a House of Torture night, a new member. Leader gets his big win. A little Empire strikes back here to build heat. But Evil tends to lose these big ones as a member of House of Torture. So there you go. Those are the two sides of it. Where do you come down?
I'm going to run right back to what I was saying earlier, that whatever happens with X, with House of Torture tonight, and how events go for House of Torture is going to tell me exactly how important that this is. For me personally, I think Evil kind of has to win this if the House of Torture interference is going to mean anything at all throughout the evening.
Yeah, I agree with you. Especially you introduce an X and then maybe have Wato and Yo retain, because that's separate from. So X is a big deal, and then they take it. So it's almost like they're 1-1 going into this one, and they need to win it. And maybe X could even interfere. Again, we're overbooking this, but yeah, it would feel like that would all be kind of a thud if Evil just ends up.
It feels like a House of Torture night.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. So
they lost the dog pound cage match, right?
Yeah.
Like,
what are they if they lose this? Yeah, what are they if they lose out tonight or on Sunday?
They need to have a game-changing member, and they need to have a big night.
And there is a lot of history of tearing a faction down before they surge and losing that dog collar cage. Now they're not members of Bullet Club anymore. All that stuff. They're kind of down and out. What's left of Ren Narita being a bloody mess. No one did anything in the Super Juniors. It just feels like now's the time for that surge. So we'll see.
I would also say that whoever wins this match is the de facto big bad of the G1.
Okay, well, there you have it. And let's get some thoughts on this. Brad had one, I think. He said, I think Takeshita is happy with the money from the AEW contract, sure, but wants to be an NJPW talent more. I think that's exactly right. I think this is being an NJPW guy is his dream going back to being new in the business before he got in with DDT. And if that means a smaller push in AEW and bigger in NJPW, I'm down. Absolutely. I totally agree. War Hero feels like this is going to be Evil's night. And then he says, with Jay White interference coming, that would be interesting. Venkin says, you know what they can do is have Evil beat Goto. You bite your tongue, Venkin Bjorn. You bite your tongue. Evil beating Goto. My goodness. Can you see the potential for a riot? Sure. Yeah, but no, I see your point. I mean, that would be the biggest heat getting thing ever. But boy, what a letdown that would be if Evil was the guy to take down Goto. Oh, oof. All right. Well, anyway, that's your dog collar match. I have no doubt that they're going to be using the blade for this one. There's a history of dog collar matches that these things tend to get very bloody, and I don't think this will be an exception.
I think you're right, Stephen. I think there's going to be blood, and there might be some bones.
Who knows what else? Probably a lot of things. Okay, see, we're not even to the main event yet. This show's got a lot of intrigue. So, are you feeling now?
Deep card.
Let me ask you this: now that we've gotten to this, we're about to do the semi-main and then the main. After all that we've talked about, are you feeling a little more pumped up for it?
Sure. I mean, all these matches are there, but it's also like we're talking through it, and unless there's like huge veering like things that we're not seeing coming, and we talk about this all the time. So, like, I don't know what that would be. I'm not suddenly reminded that anything is better than it was. This is all the same stuff. My excitement is that, like, we got all of this, like, weeks ago, and then there just hasn't been anything really strong to keep the interest sustained.
All right. Yeah, so War Heroes mentioning it's crazy they would use Sonata to beat Goto. Yeah, I think if anybody interferes or something like that in the key match, it would probably be X. Whether it's here against in the dog collar match or down the road. I just feel like this X is a bigger deal than most X's have been. Maybe I'm just wishing, though. Maybe if it ends up being a dud of an X, then I'll just throw my hands up and say, well, I just don't understand what
very House of Torture thing to do to give
X
us a flat debut.
And he's asking, isn't Kidd AEW bound? We don't know that.
They're kicking the tires on him.
Yeah. Global title match, Yota Tsuji versus Gabe Kidd. So the global title on the line. These two have done double knockouts and such before. They're building a bit of a rivalry with one another. Kidd, like you said, is being used by AEW at the moment, setting up some things maybe for the Forbidden Door. But Tsuji needs to maintain his momentum, in my opinion. If Kidd wins, it's a good sign for New Japan. It shows they're starting to get behind him and feel that he's actually a big part of the future. To me, if Tsuji wins, it doesn't necessarily mean that Gabe is gone. It just means they remain heavily invested in Tsuji and think he is worth protecting. So this is the semi-main. So it clearly means a lot to the company. So the result on this one is no small matter. Where do you come down on this? To interrupt Tsuji's momentum would seem weird, but I have said that every time these two have met. That I said it when they did the double knockout. I just think it's bizarre after Wrestle Kingdom and what happened at Wrestle Dynasty for one of these guys to lose. Eventually, one of them's got to beat the other. So again, thinking long term, it just feels like Tsuji's the answer, but maybe they have a big plan for. You could make the same case for Tsuji going into the G1 without a belt. So yeah, right. Where do you land on this as far as Kidd or Tsuji here?
Well, that was pretty much where I was going to go with it, is that if Tsuji were to win this, my immediate thought is that this dude is winning the G1. And he is going to be the guy against Goto, which, they've done that match every once in a while, and it's been tremendous. It was a New Japan Cup final last year. They ran it back again last year, and then they've kind of kept these guys away. But Yota Tsuji is one of the guys that they've been getting to the top. And if Gabe Kidd were to win the title here, he doesn't need to carry it that long. He can carry it through the G1 and have a title contender after the G1 and lose it, and then do whatever he's going to do and decide what his future contract status is going to be in with what company. We're in the middle of the year, but if you're looking at the main event scene for the IWGP title, Yota Tsuji is one of the half dozen guys that is easily in the conversation to be in the main event at Wrestle Kingdom this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you have to start laying the groundwork for that now.
Yeah.
And part of that groundwork is getting this belt off of him.
So you think the belt has done its job, that he's the legit top guy now because he's held or partially because he's held this global title?
I mean, it was all about beating Finlay rather than having great title defenses. Like, he hasn't really done much with the title since he's had it. You know, like he did the no contest, and then I frankly don't even remember some of the like maybe he had one with Yuya Uemura, but like a lot of that time was in the New Japan Cup, and then they really didn't have a whole lot of stuff going on, and then all of a sudden he's like, Gabe Kidd, let's go. You know, and so here we are. Gabe Kidd dropped the strong title to Ishii, and when that happened, it felt like it was a matter of time before he was going to get belted with, you know, a bigger title. And
I still think you only do that if you feel real confident the kid is staying, though. That's an interesting thing.
You don't have to be confident. He can only there's 7 months that he has to drop that title and do like 3 titles.
I suppose so.
You know, it's not.
I still have PTSD from the whole Tamatonga thing and the white guys with belts run they had for a while.
This is a different title than that. I feel like this is the number 2 title in the company, and it's like Finlay had it. He moved on to like bigger things than that belt, and you know the next man up in that faction is Gabe Kidd. So if he's the number 2, and that's the number 2 belt in the promotion, it's not entirely out of the question.
No, I don't think it's out of the question.
That's why I'm logicking it out.
Yeah, no, that's fine. A couple of the comments here. Didn't Kidd want to explain why he was in AEW? That's tricky, Megan, because there is no explanation for his actions in AEW that make an ounce of common sense. Given everything we know about this, when he did the whole thing where he put the lion mark and his entire feud with Kenny Omega was because you left and went to AEW, and then Tony Khan books him to help the vice presidents of the company he hates and John Mott, none of it makes a lick of common sense. So I would avoid it as much as possible because it is just
they wanted to get to the destination with as little extrapolation as possible. And
I would just avoid it if I were New Japan. Again, Rocky V, it didn't happen. It didn't make any sense. It never did make any sense. Never will. So I wouldn't have him even address it if possible.
I'm not even angry about it at this point. I was really annoyed, but it just nonsense. His presence had a role in a match that was a lot of fun, but ultimately does not like affect AEW in the day-to-day.
Yeah, and hopefully let's not let it affect New Japan. And Brad says Tsuji versus Takeshita G1 final would move me. Hell yes, it would. That would be a competitor to match of the year, in which doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of competitors to Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega at this moment. I'm in for that. All right, so there we have it. Now we go on to the main event, and that is Hirooki Goto and Shingo Takagi for the World Heavyweight title. So the argument for keeping Goto as the champion is very clear. The Goto Revolution has been a hit so far. We don't know what the attendance is going. We don't know what the advance is for this show, what the final attendance will be. But if it's strong, the answer is obvious. He's drawing well as champion. It is a company that is still highly dependent on merchandise and ticket sales. There is a very good argument for just riding the wave financially. Can't argue with that there. If you are going to do an angle where Shingo Takagi, who has made a point that there aren't any factions he really wants to join, is it time for him to form one? And then this would be the time. You know, I think there could be a time for him to do so, for him to beat Goto and announce that something new is on the way. He'll have an entire post-match promo to announce it and announce a new name, even if he just says, I'm forming one and I'm looking for members. So keep an eye out. I'll be doing some recruiting, that type of stuff. You could do that. That to me would be the way to make the case for Shingo, that you're going to put the world title on him and set him off in his own direction from there. That's the argument. But either way, Jeremy, this is one that should be the best match of the night. If you look up and down this card, this should be the best match of the night. Two really, really great workers. And I think it's going to be done in a way that neither man takes a step back if they lose, because I think they will portray it as an absolutely epic struggle, and both of them are more than capable of telling that story. So I am fired up about this match. I think both of them are outstanding workers. As far as who comes out of it, the only thing that would be disappointing is if Shingo just wins it and doesn't make a monstrous announcement afterwards. But if Goto wins, I'm cool. If Shingo wins and announces I've got my own thing, I think that's exciting. I'm fascinated by this.
I think Shingo can announce his own thing without winning.
But isn't it more dramatic if he does?
It's way more dramatic. But you saw that press conference today. They're sitting there going, I don't know what faction I'll join, blah, 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 blah.
He made a point of saying, I don't really want to join one. It sounds to me like he wants to lead one.
I might do my own thing. And, you got three guys who, Hiromu just lost the best of the Super Juniors in humiliating fashion at the very end. Yeah. Yota Tsuji could end up losing this match against Gabe Kidd, and then Shingo Takagi ends up losing this match against Hirooki Goto because he has no family, he has no faction, and he has no belt. Hirooki Goto has a family, has a faction, and has the belt. And that's been the story about this this match the whole time, has been the haves and the have-not. And I was discussing this with Paul Fontaine on the Discord for a little bit, and I felt like Shingo Takagi is the coldest he's been in a long time. Like, he's the subplot character to everyone else's stories. He's not a driving narrative in the promotion. He is the guy that somebody faces in their story to move forward, a gatekeeper, a really good hand in the promotion, but he's not like a cornerstone in which everything goes through Shingo when things have to happen. You know what I mean? Like, he's upper mid card and he's not main event right now, even though he is main event level talent. He is one of the best guys out there, and this is one of those matches that I think that you do because Shingo's one of the best guys that you have, and you want to give Hirooki Goto a bunch of matches, but you're regressing and you're losing the entirety of this entire year's build if you have Hirooki Goto lose now before the G1.
Okay.
You have him go in there and you have him have a Sonata level kind of defense where he's just running the table and he loses to a couple of guys near the end or whatever, and then he gets bounced out in the post block play. This is just kind of if you're going to do it now and then try and rebuild somebody to make them the guy to beat as a transitional champion at Wrestle Kingdom, just feels like you're missing the forest for the trees. You're building up Hirooki Goto. Hirooki Goto is one of the strongest, most believable champions you have in the entire promotion. When you have the next guy beat him, it better be a better build than this.
Well, the thing is, too, I keep thinking about the G1 this year. Look at how beautifully wide open this G1 is. Goto, Shingo, Tsuji, Takeshita, Uemura, Zach will be in there. Shota's in there somewhere. Evil, Finlay. It's just fascinating to me, and I think it's just going to be it has the potential to be a really brilliant G1. Meanwhile, our chat seems to be booking Evil into the world title. Don't hold your breath on that, lads. And
he could be the title challenger going at New Japan Soul.
Yeah, I mean, he could definitely be a challenger out there. And again, we get the whole thing with winning the special singles match. Usually leads to something else. Brad mentions that Shingo is cold, but somehow still is believable he could win. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's kind of the equity that he brings to it, that he's built up over the years, just having these great matches that you never really think he's ever out of it. And he says, I don't think he will, but that idea is wild. Yeah, which is why this is an effective main event. I'm perfectly fine with Goto holding this thing for a while longer, especially if business is up. You can't discount that. I mean, the money hasn't been.
You don't want to risk losing the people that are there for Goto. Because what else do you have exactly at this moment? If you're going to have Goto lose, and you're going to have Yota Tsuji lose, and you're going to have all these other people lose, who's your babyface that you're cheering for?
Yeah. That's what I said, is that the only thing that would be disappointing is Shingo winning and not having it be a monumental sea change in the company to give people a reason to keep coming back. Because if the Goto thing's over, that would just be deflating. Even though it's Shingo Takagi and a great wrestler, it would have to be something monstrous. That's the only excuse I'll take for taking the belt off of Goto at this point, unless somehow attendance just tanks, and I don't think it's going to. So, I'm again, Vegas odds, right? The short odds are on a really great match and a retention, but they better have, if they do take the title off of him, it better be because they are making they
have one hell of a plan.
They must be making a huge statement. That's my only point on that.
Stay the course. Honestly, just stay the course.
and go into a fascinating G1, because any of those people with Goto as champion is interesting. All of it is, all of those people that we just talked about. And it's a longer list than usual of contenders. Last year, we felt like it was going to be Zach and maybe one or two others. This year, 6-7 guys could win the thing.
Here's the other thing too. If you have Shingo win right here, you have to spend the entire G1 establishing that he is like a dominant champion. Yeah. You don't have to do any of that with Goto.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they almost have to do what they did with Sonata and just
have him run the table.
Almost, right? Otherwise, he looks weak as champion. Yeah, you kind of book yourself into a corner a little bit sometimes.
So, I think Shingo is.
We're talking ourselves out of Shingo here, aren't we?
I had talked myself out of Shingo from the get-go.
Yeah, me too. It feels like a great match that should be a retention.
There's so much going right with Hirooki Goto on top, and I don't see a viable direction that maintains that momentum. And right now, you want to have as much momentum as possible, so people's eyes are on the promotion while they're building the next year of talent and saying goodbye to Tanahashi.
All right. That is Dominion. So we will be seeing that one on Sunday. And
I don't know how we managed to hit 90 minutes each time and not really try.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, that's our Dominion preview. And of course, we will be discussing it when we come back next time. Now, there was another pay-per-view this past weekend.
Oh, God.
Now, this was the DDT New Japan Toru Yano Super Sasadango Machine pay-per-view from Korakuen Hall. Sweet baby Jesus. Jeremy, I did not see this. All disclosure. I did not pay extra money to see this.
You got the note for the recap that you can now tell me, because I, too, did not see the DDT show.
Some of them. Here's why. There's a lot going on
Did
here.
You manage to get the PowerPoint presentation?
Well, I think everybody did. There were 2 of them. So, all right. Toru Yano Super Sasadango Machine. First of all, they began with 2 referees, one from each company. 2 screens up in Korakuen Hall. Because the whole idea is the DDT, it's 2 separate pay-per-views. It's available on Wrestle Universe and NJPW World. What else is there?
We too know the importance of an infographic.
Brad says he's saving his money for Despe and Kasai. I don't think you're going to regret it. I don't think you'll regret that decision at all. So they had 2 different sets of announcers, kind of. So Murata, who announces for everybody in the world, we've seen him all the time with Milano Collection AT, said he was going to call it right down the middle and kind of be the MC for the evening. So they bring out the NJPW announcers, the backup guy, I think it's Nagami is his name, and Milano. They bring out the DDT announcers, and Murata joins DDT, that dirty bastard. So that was the first real surprise. Hiromu was there. There were a few others. But the whole point was that these 2 were going to wrestle each other, and it was DDT and New Japan, and they weren't even going to combine their productions. So 2 referees who were going to switch out in intervals. So Kenta Sato was the New Japan referee. I don't know who the DDT refs are. But the whole point was they would just switch out on the time calls, basically. And no one's getting along. That's the whole idea here. So, the referees aren't getting along. Even the feeds aren't getting along. They're showing different things on the two screens. It's chaos. They start wrestling. There's a young lion from each company at ringside, Kazuma Sumi and Daiki Nagai. They're both out there. They got involved after a little while of Sadango and Yano doing their comedy matches and tangled up. So they just decided, okay, we need to settle this. So they stopped, and now we're going to have the young lions wrestle each other. This is a one-match show. So they're giving Machine and Yano a bit of a rest. So Nagai and this guy, they go to a 3-minute draw. They want to keep going. So they give them 5 minutes. They wrestle a little bit more. They get a 5-minute draw out of it. Machine and Yano were at ringside. Afterwards,
I think I would have turned it off by now.
Afterwards, Machine said that he was mentally exhausted, worn out, and so he and Yano just went to the back. They couldn't go on. So at that point, Antonio Honda from DDT and Yo did a whole comedy bit where they began to wrestle. But in the course of wrestling, they tried to lock their fingers, but ended up making the heart sign with their hands, which broke out into a dance number. Folks, THC has just been banned by the Texas legislature. I am not high, nor was I when I was reading this. This is what happened. Don't blame me. Shoot no messengers. So, so that turns into a dance number. Sasa Sadango comes out, and then it was time for his PowerPoint presentation. So in the middle of this, he starts doing his PowerPoint of how I can defeat Toru Yano and win the match. This is how they did it. They had a corner pad in each one that belonged to each guy's different businesses. I don't know what Sasadango's business is, but Yano's corner pad had the name of his bar on it, Abritas. And so whoever could unlock the other guy's pad and pin the pad would win the match and get the DDT Extreme Championship. So this goes on.
Were they locked or anything? Look at a padlock? No,
it was just they have to untie him and then pin the pad. So you know how Yano will jump on the Yoshinoya pad and protect it for whatever reason. So as this goes on, Sasadango suddenly, music changes in the building and the whole thing starts to go in slow motion. And you start to hear Sasadango's thoughts, which were apparently recorded and played over the PA.
Like Deep Thoughts by Jack Andy?
You start to hear what he's thinking. So we heard his thoughts on the match. And then Yano's thoughts played during this slow motion segment. And it turned out that all of Yano's thoughts were just a commercial for his bar. That's all he was thinking of. Yeah, nothing particularly deep. And apparently, though, Sasadango was just about to pin the Abritas pad. And Yano's ad for his bar juiced up the pad, and the pad kicked out. Stay with me on this. Brad says,
yes.
This sounds awesome and amazing at the same time.
Awful and amazing.
and yeah, I hear Benkin. I thought the KOPW rules were weird. Well, just you wait. So at this point now, the pad has kicked out of the pad.
Was there a frog in the pad, or was there like a?
I think Sasadango mimed the whole idea of the kick out.
Okay.
So then Yano's thoughts made fun of the slow motion thing, and everybody snapped out of it and started wrestling at full speed again. Now, this continues on. They begin fighting at real speed. Then there was things slowed down because Yo came back out. And I don't even have all the details on this, but Yo came back out with some of the other guys from DDT, and he started sitting down in the ring and talking about how he wanted to make up for a loss in the past. And he felt that Tanahashi needed to provide some words of affirmation. Again, I'm getting this translated here, so stick with me on this, okay? And yeah, Benkin, the pad kicked out of the pin. So match is still going. But Yo has some things he needs to get off his chest. So Yo is sitting in the ring, crisscross applesauce, depressed because he feels like he suffered a bad loss while Tanahashi was on his team, and he's just been trying to make up for it ever since. Well, Sasadango says, well, I don't know what we can really do about this. But Tanahashi is being interviewed by a comedian, and that's going on YouTube right now. So they bring up the YouTube video. They bring up YouTube on the screens of Tanahashi finishing this interview with this comedian as this is going on apparently live. Then the guy says, Sasadango, but, Tanahashi, he's got a big heart. And I feel like if we chant his name, he'll be drawn back to here with us. So the crowd at Korakuen starts chanting Tanahashi, Tanahashi, Tanahashi. And lo and behold, Hiroshi Tanahashi appears after his interview wraps up with the YouTube thing. And Tanahashi is there in the building. And he is talking to Yo, and Sasadango is saying, you should tell Yo that he is going to be a star. And Tanahashi is, well, he's already a star. He says, but I want him to go to be the biggest star in all of New Japan. And suddenly Yo is feeling better, and this burden has been lifted off of Yo's. This burden that has been weighing Yo down is now off of him, and he's cheered up again. A couple of DDT wrestlers then come out and just say, what is all this? This shouldn't be going on. And now we break up into a 6-man tag match. So now it's Yano, Yo, and Tanahashi against Sasadango and 2 other DDT guys. That goes on for a while to give the Machine and Yano time to rest. So everybody else works for a little while. Tanahashi ends up winning the match with a high fly flow.
Yeah.
All right. So that's
over. We took the long way around to get there.
Yeah. So now these 6 guys are now like feeling better. Their match is now over with. 6 other guys come out from DDT and just say that this is they have a confrontation, and that breaks out into a 12-man match. So now the 6 guys that were involved in the trios match that I just talked about are now a team against these other 6 guys. All right, let me get my notes back out. Like I said, this is an awful lot. Let's see here. A 12-man match broke out. Yes,
I'm not disappointed at all.
That all ends up with their team winning. And afterwards, Yano's thoughts came up over the PA again. So Yano's been thinking. And yes, so while the match is going, Tanahashi's giving therapy to Yo. Well, Yo is feeling better, and that allowed them to wrestle the match. Now Yo can wrestle again. He feels good. This burden's been lifted. Tanahashi has endorsed him and said, you're okay, kid. And now he feels better. So Yano's thoughts after this 12-man match begin to play over the PA. And it says, it should end with all of the wrestlers. Now there's 12 of them in the ring, with all of us just leaving the ring and getting counted out and ending this feud between New Japan and DDT. And then it's all unicorns and puppies, and we're rolling in fields of and happy fields of meadow. And it's world peace all over again.
Sure.
Everybody leaves the ring. Everybody counts to 20 together, ring the bell. The match, after 2 hours and 6 minutes from start to finish, ends with Toru Yano and Sasadango Machine going to a double countout.
End credit.
Scene, as they say right there. So
that's like Curb Your Enthusiasm ending right after that.
Eat your heart out, Tam Nakano. You think you do drama well. Listen to that.
That was wild.
That did
not disappoint me, Stephen. Thank you for that 10-minute recap of the.
Oh my goodness! I need water. I'm parched. There was so many words that I had to explain.
And I flushed after all that.
I didn't get all of it, Jeremy. There's more to this, but I don't want to be here all night. I mean, I'll be here and talk with you all night. I don't want to be discussing this match all night. So, okay. Now Collins says, now back to reality. We have Yuzuki and Mayu and Utami versus Takumi, Senka versus Ayami. It will be on the next Marigold show. He's absolutely right. Marigold has a loaded show coming up. Stardom has a pay-per-view coming up that's going to have some terrific matches on it. They're getting those set up. So there's exciting things going on in Joshi Wrestling. We have Dominion. So after this little
not next week
quiet period that we've just had between the 15th and the 21st, there's actually quite a few really exciting shows coming up. So
we're going to have some soul.
We will, and then the Soul Tour begins. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's going to go around, and we'll be we'll have some shows on World to cover. But by the time we meet up again, that'll all be going on. We'll have Dominion to discuss. So it'll be time to head back into the ring, Jeremy. After a couple of weeks of talking about all this wrestling, now we can actually get in there and watch some and talk about what actually happens inside the ropes.
I binged watched a lot of stuff and played on my new Nintendo Switch too. So it
Well, you know what I did?
Fine way to pass the time.
Well, what I've been doing is going back in the Peacock archives, and it's kind of cool that they have several territories on there, like Mid-Atlantic, right, Mid-South, and World Class, and they're in the same time period, like that 1982, 83 to 86-ish. And what I'm doing is I'm watching it week by week. So what I'm doing, instead of just going one episode after the other of one of them,
I'm watching each show at the same week.
I'm watching like the February 2nd, 1985 Mid-Atlantic, right, and then watching that same week in
the moment in time approach.
Yeah. And it's really cool. I've been really enjoying that, and I'm working my way into 1985. So that was fun for me. I'm going to get back to the Japanese wrestling now, but that was an enjoyable little diversion, and I'll get back to that.
I almost went over to Dave's house. He wanted me to watch Dominion with him on Sunday, but his big screen TV is broken, and I just loaned him. I loaned him one of my TVs to get him through the week so he could do his thing. And my wife put a hard no to Dave coming over to our house to watch the show.
All right. Well, let's not.
My wife knows Dave enough to give like, nah, he's not coming over. Oh God, it's too messy over here. It's too much.
Like, poor Dave. Well, he has a TV to watch it though, right?
He is. I promise you all, Dave is completely taken care of.
And let me tell you, folks, something right there. I am speaking to the guy that helps Dave Meltzer with a lot of his New Japan stuff. So it's a Jeremy Finestone.
I am not joking when I say I'm his pay-per-view buddy. I have 5 phone calls from this week about random stuff where he just needed a hand with something.
There you go. Well, Dave's a busy man. He's got a lot to do and a lot to write, and you help him out with some of the logistics.
We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and I am just thankful that my strength is something that he looks to me and says, "Hey, I need help," because it's too much pride when people say they don't need help with things.
Very true. So with that in mind, I hope Dave Meltzer enjoys Dominion. I hope all of you.
I hope you enjoy Dominion.
Thank you. I think I will. And I am
going to be excited for it, even though I told you all, I just didn't like the way that the build muted my enthusiasm. But I never for one second thought that this show was going to be a potential show of the year candidate.
We will break it down match by match again next week. So with that in mind, thank you everyone who is watching here live. Thank you everyone who is watching or listening to this later as a podcast feed. We're very grateful for your time. We know you don't have a lot of it, and the fact that you're spending some of it with us means a lot to us. So we will be back next week. Thanks, Venkin, Brad, good grief, all of you guys, Colin, War Hero, Fernando, Maria, all of you. We're really grateful that you guys were here. So for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong Style. We'll talk to you again real soon.